Hi, I'm Martha from Far Out Kids. I just got back from Guatemala and now I'm in beautiful Costa Rica. I love Costa Rica. Pure vida Costa Rica. More than 500,000 animal species represent nearly 4% of the total species estimated worldwide, from monkeys to toucans to crocodiles. Costa Rica is also known for its world-famous coffee-growing regions. It was actually the first Central American country to establish coffee growing as an industry. It is some of the best in the world. I love Costa Rican coffee. Did you know that coffee is one of the largest traded products in the world, right behind oil? And that each coffee bean has to be picked one at a time. But sometimes those beans are picked by underage children in very harsh conditions. But this is not a story about the cost of labor or the price of coffee. This is not a diatribe against coffee as either as a beverage of choice or an economic commodity. Nor is it a story about the evils of child labor. It is about good people who come together directly or indirectly, an effort to help close a large chasm between human services and the price of coffee in America, Europe, and Asia. Dr. Pablo Ortiz, Michele Zousmer, Samuel Bastrain, Emmanuel Gomez, and Roy Hahn are some of those people. 10 years ago, he produced a television show called Misty Buzz on Paradise. It was about a coffee lover looking for the perfect cup of coffee. He shot the show in the coffee capitals of the world, including Panama and Costa Rica. Besides sampling some of the world's finest coffee, there was one reoccurring theme. There were little children with infants in the fields with their parents, in the blazing hot sun. They had no shoes, raggedy clothing, and lacked the very basics of life, including clean water. They lived in the jungles and shacks in tin houses. In his memory, those were haunting images. He promised that one day he would return and tell their story. Then, in 2016, he had a near-death experience that caused him to repurpose his life. After a long recovery, he started up Far Out Kids. We first traveled to Jamaica and then went on a quest to find these kids in Central America. It was a wonderful quest of discovery for him. He learned that by just doing your job or the things that you love, you can change the world. Or as the story goes, start a small revolution. And this revolution helped Costa Rica go from one of the worst child labor countries to one of the best in the world. Isn't Costa Rica beautiful? I'm back here in Vancouver, Washington with Far Out Kids. Now let's start from the beginning. Remember, Roy promised to return and find those children to tell their story. After about a week of searching, he found an obscure article in Femme Worldview. Femme Worldview was an online publication that featured top women photographers around the world. It was published by Maggie Gray, amazing women with amazing pictures. One of the articles was entitled Children of the Coffee by Michele Zousmer. Michele is a humanitarian photographer. The article led to her website, and right then, Roy knew he found his kids. In that same article in Femme Worldview, Roy was introduced to Dr. Pablo Ortiz, known as the Treasure of San Vito. As it turns out, Dr. Ortiz has been a steward of these kids and their families for over 30 years. In the Coda Bruce area, he is everything to everybody.
This is, I usually say our house. I talk in plural because usually we have many people in the house. This is part of the property. We are located in the county of San Vito, Coturus, in the southern part of Costa Rica, and in the middle of, let's say, in the middle of the jungle. You can actually see right now we have white-faced monkeys in the surroundings, and They come here to eat bananas and eggs, steal eggs from the kitchen and so on. I would like you to go into the house, and I will show you the what we have in the house. This is one big table, as you can see, and usually we have students coming from. We have from many parts of the world. Usually we have at least 4 Costa Rican medical students in the house, plus many Americans doing their elective, which is 1 month, or European students, also medical students, all of them, staying in the house for 2.5 months. Usually, if they don't speak Spanish, they go to Spanish lessons 2 hours or 3 hours a day, and they stay in the house, go to the clinics, talk to the doctors, look at a different approach to medicine. We work mostly in promotion and prevention.
Over the years, he has opened up his home in San Vito to hundreds of medical students and interns to live, to study, work in the clinics, provide services and care to the children and their families. His spacious open-air home can hold up to 20 students and interns, with food, classrooms, and dorm-like facilities. It's like Grey's Anatomy in the jungle. So as the story continues, Roy has found Michele, Dr. Ortiz, and the children on the web, but has not met them yet. So he called Dr. Ortiz in San Vito to talk about this project, and Dr. Ortiz invited him to San Vito to meet him and the children. There's so much more to learn about the Nobe and their children. They have a rich history that spans thousands of years. They have maintained their culture, heritage, and belief system to this day. They are one of the only indigenous people that have never been conquered by the Europeans. In fact, they fought Columbus and his brother Bartholomew and chased them from their land. But these are segments for another presentation, as Roy's story continues. To learn a little bit more about these people, I want to introduce you to Samira Tella to fill you in. Samira worked side by side with Dr. Ortiz and the interns last summer.
Hello, I'm Samira Tella, and I came here to San Vito in April of 2018 as a public health student. And I came here to learn about Costa Rica and about what was going on here. And my time here, hearing from Dr. Ortiz and seeing the indigenous population, I felt really captivated by this Noe Bugle population. And in the months I spent here, I felt like I needed to learn more. So I started interviewing, and I started sort of documenting things I saw or things that people told me and stories that I heard. And this ultimately led to what was then published by the Pulitzer Center in a series of articles. But through that, I really learned more about the migration experience and about the livelihoods of the Noe Bugle population. Throughout the Coto Bruce region, the fields of ripening fruit allow farmers to make a living. They also affect the livelihoods of the Noe Bugle, an indigenous group migrating between Panama and Costa Rica. Each year, an estimated 2,500 Noe Bugle children cross the border with their families to work in the coffee plantations of Costa Rica. The national government, private farm owners, and the international organizations are working together to improve the lives of these children. Without other options, parents take their children into the fields. Children spend all day outdoors, susceptible to the same harsh conditions as their parents: morning heat followed by heavy rains without shelter, proximity to chemicals, and labor-intensive work. Mothers can often be seen carrying babies in traditional woven carriers called chakras on their backs as they pick coffee, or older children may care for younger ones. To maximize the amount of coffee collected, families often leave at sunrise, 4 or 5 a.m., and go until sundown without eating, showering, or using a toilet. Parents are hesitant to take their children, but leaving them in the baches presents a different set of issues. Children are left in the confines of a bache, a small room inhabited by 7 or 8 people. Inside, they have little access to light. There is no bathroom and often no potable water. Some baches also contain a fogón, a wood-burning stove, and children left all day with little stimulation can suffer from severe burns from touching and playing with the fogón. After 3 or 4 days of walking from Panama to the border, children often arrive malnourished from the harsh living conditions of the comarca.
Families moving from farm to farm do not have access to stable resources, and children may pass months without access to education and years without medical care.
As we said our goodbyes to Dr. Ortiz, we asked him what we could bring when we returned. Without hesitation, he said rubber boots and clean water.
In 2010, I left to start Roma Boots. I sold my car, I pawned things, I put things on Craigslist and did what I could to get this company off the ground. We ended up manufacturing 10,000 rain boots last year. 3 weeks later, we went to Romania and did our first boot drop, which was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. It just made me realize that this is something I should have been doing for many years. We want to be able to recreate the same experience for children throughout Eastern Europe and eventually around the world. And more importantly, we really want to help them get an education, and so they'll be able to break out of the cycle of poverty and give back in different ways themselves.
Basically here for a season with their parents who are here to collect coffee beans. And they are poor, they don't have proper footwear, and even today being out there and talking to them, interacting with them, providing them with rain boots, we realized how essential the rain boots are, because they not only help these kids as they walk through long distances, they protect their feet from the elements, from parasites, from just different diseases that these kids are susceptible to when they don't have proper footwear. And so we came here with Roy Hahn and Dr. Ortiz, who's been working here for 30 years with these Nobe people. And it's inspiring work that he's doing. And it was so neat for us to connect with them. And Roy Hahn reached out and said, hey Samuel, Dr. Ortiz said one of the biggest needs for these people for the kids, the Nobe kids, is proper footwear. Rain boots, rubber boots. I immediately jumped on it and I said, let's do something, especially since we didn't do anything in Costa Rica before. Costa Rica happens to be our 27th countries where we've donated boots to, so it's very exciting to be here. The children were just so kind, so precious, and from what I'm hearing, or from what we've shared, or what Dr. Ortiz has shared with us, I should say, this is 5% of what the communities look like right now in terms of how many kids are there. Apparently there are thousands that come between September and December to pick the beans. And so it's really, really an eye-opening experience for me to see that there is so much need for rain boots in these communities. But every single boot drop, as we call them, or Roma excursion, is a unique experience. You know, whether we go into a community and partner with World Vision or with Global Aid Network or whoever it may be, you know, in this case with Dr. Ortiz and Roy Hahn to help the Nobe children, it's always a unique experience, and it's always humbling to see that something as simple as a pair of rain boots can make such a huge impact in the life of somebody, you know?
Anyways, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Back to Michele. Michele's photos are recognized worldwide. Her photos on the Irish Travelers are currently being considered and have won several awards, including the Polis Award and the AFAR Travel Awards. AFAR publishes international travel guides for over 50 countries. Here's another sampling of her amazing pictures.
I've had many experiences. I've been in over 60 countries. One of the most recent experiences I had, which I thought was so special and so cute, was I was recently in Outer Mongolia, and I was with a team of photographers, and we were traveling trying to find Alicia Pan, who was the 13-year-old young girl who won the Eagle Festival a few years later. She was the first female to ever compete. My feeling was she was the first female to compete, and she actually won over all the older eagle falconers, eagle hunters. So it was quite a scene. And we went back several years later to find her. At this time she was, it was not the festival, so she was at her home. It took us hours. We left very early in the morning. It must have taken us maybe 3 hours in this bumpy road, and I couldn't even tell you where we were. And when we finally got there, we were so excited to finally find her house. We were asking people along the way, who knows where Alicia Pan and her family live, and they kept directing us. You know, we just had to wait because she had to finish milking the cows. So this is the real thing, and this is how people live. In Costa Rica, when I came here, I had no idea what I was going to find, and I was just so taken by these little children with these heavy baskets around them. I really believe that they think they're having fun, but I would have preferred to see them in my perfect world, in school, getting educated, running around, playing games, breaking this cycle of poverty. And that's what I see whenever I travel. That's what I like to come back. I want people to understand that even though we're different in skin color or traditions or beliefs, in essence, in our spirit, I believe that we're all the same.
Isn't she fantastic? So back to our story. How did this gifted photographer from the Bronx hook up with this Costa Rican, Russian-trained world doctor in the Costa Rican jungle? Two worlds apart. Well, Michele and Dr. Ortiz met in San Vito in 2013. As it turns out, one of Michele's family members was doing a medical intern rotation with Dr. Ortiz. She told him about Michele, and he invited Michele down to photograph his medical clinics and follow the interns around. After a long day, Michele and Dr. Ortiz were driving back. All of a sudden, he slammed on the brakes and told her to follow him. She was not aware of what was going on. He told her this was a great opportunity for her. Because of the strict labor laws, the families would hide the children in the fields. Dr. Ortiz did not want the children in the coffee fields, so he decided that she would go alone with a medical student to interpret. She walked for days in the coffee field, and that's when she photographed the children of the coffee. 5 years later, at an awards party honoring Michele in San Vito, Dr. Ortiz reveals the impact of those pictures and how the small revolution began.
Pablo allowed me to come here. He's always been so gracious and helped me go through the coffee fields and find all these children, which was a surprise to me and very moving and life-changing. And that's why I had to go back and tell the story. But then you Googled me, and it's just so interesting how it all came together. I think that's really a great story.
And Pablo was telling stories tonight about some of the dramatic things that have happened as a result of this union that we didn't even know about or that had any clue about.
I'm an activist now.
Yeah, she's
I'm
an
adding it
activist.
to my website.
She had big corporations yelling at her.
Every time you come down, there's something new, and what you have been doing, I think, is marvelous and great. Not only the pictures, but the way it has been published, all the pictures that you have been taking about the children of the coffee. There are many new things that I would like you to know about it. For example, since you wrote the article and the Department of State made the statement about Costa Rica being in the list of one of the countries who had the worst labor experiences with children, especially indigenous children. So there is an institution here in the country in charge of trading with coffee, which is called Instituto del Café, el I-Café, Instituto Costarricense del Café. They immediately after the article was published by the Department of State, they called me and they wanted an appointment with me. And I told them that sure, I can go to San Jose anytime that you want to. And I kind of like felt that something, like that they wanted to talk about. And they said like, no, don't worry, Dr. Ortiz, we will go down to San Vito, which was very, for me it was like a surprise, the manager of this big institution coming down to San Vito just to talk to me, and they say like, this is something going on. So they actually came down. Before that, I had this. I talked with the ombudsman in San Jose, and they told me you better don't meet with them in a private place, only in a public institution, because if you're working, you cannot be out of your office. You know what I mean? So better in the office with them and with witnesses. So I did it, and they came down. They were at the beginning. They were very rough with me. Like talking, like complaining.
Aggressive, really?
Yeah, like aggressive. So, because they started to kind of like arguing with me. Why did you do that? Why did you talk? And so I told him that, okay, of this article, of all the things that are written here, show me one that is a lie, at least one that is a lie. And of course they couldn't. Everything is true. You know that? And you have been taking pictures. Yeah. And you have seen the reality, which has been hiding for many, many, many years. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And so, and then I told them, they kind of like tried to tell me that I was the problem, and I told them, no, wait a minute, I'm not the problem. You have the problem. I don't even have coffee plantations or anything like that. And so they changed their attitude, and they asked me, how can we change and help? And the reason why they came down is it was not only because of the statement, but also because some buyers, big buyers from Europe, people that wanted to buy coffee in Europe, they started to.
That's amazing.
I
had no idea. That's amazing.
Yes, it's true, but it's the truth, So people in Europe decided not to buy coffee because of this situation with the kids. That's why that made them change their attitude.
Good.
And this is at the meantime, all the institutions in the country started to move in order to help in a way the situation. And so we came up with this idea that is called Casas de la Alegría, in translation that is houses of happiness, of houses of joy, and it is like daycare centers, but the innovation is that it's only for indigenous kids at the beginning, and the places are in private land because the landowners have to give the lot in order to build the infrastructure.
So they're on the land of the coffee fields?
Yes. So that's what they are putting in. And also in some cases they themselves started to build this, you will see them, these infrastructures, and in order to have the kids at least safely during the day when the parents are picking coffee. Right now we have up to 17 last year. And last year, Michelle, we had 654 kids in this house.
For you, I'm so happy.
No, thanks a lot for you.
I'm really overwhelmed. I had no idea.
Oh.
I mean, when you invited me to come here to document your work, I never even expected to find these children. So I thank you for sending me out there with medical students who,
I
who
remember
didn't know who we were, and we were traipsing through those fields and
I
found
remember.
all those children. So it was heartbreaking to me.
Yes, of
And
course.
I had to show, I mean, just how they were working and how they were living. It just inhuman.
I
Yeah.
remember talking with you about nobody's taking care of how much weight they had to carry.
Oh my
remember
God,
that?
those little girls with those baskets on their waists. I couldn't lift it, and
Yeah.
I'm strong. I
Uh-huh.
know, I just had never seen that before. I've read about it, I've heard about it, but not really seen it with my own eyes.
Yes. The problem I think is that this situation has been covered by everybody. Nobody wants to see the reality in these conditions, and I think it's the other way around. In order to change things, you have to talk about and open them up
Well,
and show
I
them.
agree.
And
And
you
that's
did
what
it.
the images do. And you can't deny it. There's no way to deny it. Images are so powerful.
Dr. Ortiz, we're wrapping up today, and I just wanted to thank you for all your hospitality. It's been a wonderful week. We've learned so much. I met you, I think about 15 months ago when we came to San Jose and did the little party there, and that was a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of your associates and so on. And the last time we were here, we were with Michele, and then you gave her the revelation about how her pictures started a small revelation and created a little chaos within the government and so on, and that the program, the Casa de Alegría program, expanded greatly since then, and with a little more ease. You know, you didn't have the difficulty, and so you know, and I'm sure that Emmanuel has been the driving force behind that. We've watched him operate this week, and he has such a command of the program. And
actually, Roy, thanks to you for coming down and visiting us. It is always a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much.
Welcome.
I appreciate it.
And actually, yes, you are right. Well, the program started, like the bomb exploded when Michele took the pictures of the kids working in the fields and the conditions that they were working, and that was the beginning of something. At the beginning, it was hard. Every beginning is hard. We know that. People were not convinced that we were doing the right thing. Even though the activities were like, from the government point of view, people didn't want to see the reality. Still, United Nations offices like UNICEF and International Migration Office in San Jose also believe in us, and they help us. We started opening 4 houses of Alegría, I think 4 years ago.
That was in 2014? Okay, great, yeah, right. Up until that time, there was only 2.
Only 2, but there were
rudimentary, like
just like
little buildings,
shelters.
right.
And so, right now we have 17.
Wow.
And
since 2014, you've grown from 4 to 17.
To 8, and then more and more. Every year we have been opening up.
Right.
This year we have 17. And actually, this is the first year that the government and the coffee owners are trying to open one in the center of the country, not here in
the Terrazoo area.
In the Terrazoo area.
Wow,
this is
that's
gonna
big
be the
time.
first one.
Yeah.
2 years in a row they came, look at the project, and finally they decided to open up more and more. If we covered only 30% of the kids right now, we hope that in the future, near future, we are going to be opening more and more and little bit. But the thing is that if we thought at the beginning it was a shelter, it is more than that. Now we have to think about their education.
Right.
And what is going to happen with these kids in the future? Opportunities for them, not only to learn, but develop their brains, develop abilities. So there's always a challenge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's always been a challenge to their education or their development because of being in the field and not getting exposed to colors or
music,
shapes or music or whatever.
Yes.
And so because you're now gathering these children into these wonderful places, now you can start teaching them and educating them and appreciating art and architecture.
Architecture.
So,
That's why the houses of Alegría, they have to be beautiful.
Right.
Because I want the kids to learn what beauty is.
Right.
And the scenery, keep for nature, you know.
Right.
Things have to be clean. Pets have to be well fed and well treated. So it's a complex of education, and that's what our civilization is about.
One of our visits was at this wonderful little toy factory. They're going to be providing toys. They're colorful toys. They're beautiful. We got a nice session with them. And could you tell us about how that evolved?
Yes. Well, but the need is of toys that were culturally accepted by the kids first.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that the kids were the toys were strong enough because they are kids, of course. And also is providing work and money locally to the factory.
Right.
So people didn't have, actually that factory didn't have anything to do before we came in.
Yeah, and that's a fairly good sized factory, woodworking and
And so for 17 houses of Alegría, making all the toys is going to give them money.
Money,
And the money goes into the community, and that goes on.
And then we attended the meeting with the farmers yesterday. That was really enlightening to me. That these people would come in and learn about the program. And Roberto Rojas, what a gentleman and a crusader, right? He's like telling them that it's in their best interest to do this, right? Isn't that his message?
Yes, we have the support of the coffee owners, and they are coming down to see. Last year we had a visit from one of the coffee owners from San Jose.
Yeah.
One day he called and he said, I need to meet with you and Emmanuel. So we say like, yes, of course. So next morning they were here. And what happened was that the indigenous people that went to pick up in his farm, they asked him, where is La Casa de la Alegría in your farm? And he went like, what? What are you talking about? And the indigenous people told him, well, in San Vito, they have these houses. So he was like surprised.
Oh, I see. So they were looking for the house, the casa there. Oh my God. That's
and so he came down to see by himself. And he asked us, what are you guys doing?
Right, yeah.
And so we took him to one of these houses and showed him what it was about.
So when I started out on this journey 10 years ago to find these children, I've gone through these different visits, and I've learned that through this Casa de Alegría program, it is in good hands with you, right? Because and that was kind of going to be the end of my happy ending to this story. But being here this week, I've learned that it is the beginning of a happy story because of all of the things that are happening as a result of bringing all these children together and then pointing them in a new direction.
Yes.
So as the program is expanding, you're taking more children out of the field. You're collecting them into an area where you can educate them, and the educational program will be basically consistent throughout each one of the locations, right?
Yes.
Which is wonderful. You're expanding into other regions, right?
Yes.
And so it's
when people ask me what do you think the future is, and I say like in the future I will be very happy if in my place we have an indigenous doctor dealing with the project,
right,
and making the changes, but indigenous people already professionals taking care of their own people in health, or engineers, as we talked the other day, working in the coffee processing.
Right.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah, because now you're able to present certain initiatives to the farm owners who have a great influence in their area, right?
Yes.
And so anything can happen. The magic continues.
The
right?
magic continues. And this is just the beginning
It
of
is the beginning.
something.
Yeah, it's a new story, right?
New stories,
My journey is continuing, I think, to report on the progress here.
Yes, of course.
It's always exciting to come here. The children are coming, let the magic begin. Thank you, Doctor. I really
Thanks to you.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Hope is just around the bend. Open up your heart from within and say goodbye to sleepless nights of restless dreams that end in fright. Pleasant dreams and sleep tight and dream of a magic world about to begin, where the sun always shines on your circle of friends. The children are coming, whole world is humming. Let the magic begin. Let the magic begin, my friend. 'Cause the children are just round the bend. Let the magic begin. 'Cause the children are coming, my friend. The children are coming, whole world is humming. Let the magic begin. Let the magic begin, my friend. 'Cause the children are just round the bend. Let the magic begin. 'Cause the children are coming, my friend.